Hey everyone, this is Steph from debtfreespending.com. We're back for another Teach Your Child to Read for Free blog post, and I wanted to do a quick video to go over some of the skills that you're going to be teaching to your child on a first grade reading level. So your child doesn't have to be in first grade to be working on these skills if they're ready for it. It's just one way for me to kind of help you gauge where your child is reading. So if they finished up all the kindergarten skills we talked about in our kindergarten post and they're ready to move on, this is your next starting point. And so like we talked about in the overview video, I discussed the analogy of going to a fair or going to a place where there are entertainers and watching somebody take a plate and put it on a stick and spin it, and then get many plates spinning in the air at the same time without having them fall. That is basically what you're going to be doing as you teach your first grader how to read as well. You're going to be getting many skills going up in the air at the same time and then bringing it all together for them to learn how to read books fluently. And so what we're going to start out talking about today are phonics, specifically short vowels, long vowels, and some other skills, and then sight words, blends, digraphs, and then moving on, into more advanced phonics. But to get started, you're basically going to be talking about sight words and short vowels at the very beginning. Your child needs to know sight words. I love Mrs. Perkins.com. She has a Dolch list which has all the Dolch words from pre-primer to third grade. I recommend you printing them out. She has them on Word or PDF. I use them with my students all the time. This is how I keep track of what words they know and what words they don't know. And I've advanced children from kindergarten till third grade using not just her sight words, but all of these things I'm going to be teaching you over the next few lessons. So I just start out and we start working on words where I have my students write them 5 times on a dry erase board every day, the words that they don't know. And then I also try to have them read books that have those words in them. Sight words, or Dolch words as they're sometimes called, are words that don't follow a phonetic pattern. And so I'm just going to open up the pre-primer list here and see if we can get that to open. If not, I can just talk about it. But basically looking at being able to look at words that do not have a set spelling pattern always. Some of them do, but many of them don't. So for example, these are also very basic starting words. Taking a look at you, Y-O-U, that's not an early spelling pattern. You're going to have to just teach your child that. They will visually memorize these words over time. There are many different resources we're going to be sharing, to help you, not just, like I said, more than just dry erase boards, but that's just to get you started. But there are other words like come. If you're phonetically reading that word, it would be actually comb if you were following a phonics pattern. Just like with, let me think of another one here, if I can find one more on this first grade list. These are just the basics, high sight words, the most frequently used words. Okay, here is not a typical pattern that they're going to learn right away. Find, it looks like find, is how most kids are going to try and read that. So sight words, again, are just words that don't follow always phonetic spelling patterns, and they're also just the most frequently used words in the English language. So when you're reading a book, you're going to see and, the, see, run, all those words are such basic words that your kids are going to be saying over and over and over again. And so you want to start working on those sight words at the same time that you're working on phonics skills. And the first one would be the short vowels. You're always going to be looking at short vowels usually to start, because children, after they come out of their phonemic awareness training in kindergarten with rhyming and figuring out how letters work together, it's easy to start excuse me, with 3-letter words, because they really, their brains can't process more than 3 sounds really at a time until they've learned how to process 3 sound words. So now we're attaching a visual to it. Now we have more than just the sounds that they practiced in kindergarten and manipulating sounds and songs and words and poems, but now they have to be able to look at them visually and be able to know that k, a, t can be blended back together to make cat. And so you're visually getting them used to blending 3 sounds. Most words are made of 3 sounds, and when you're looking at the short vowels, obviously the at family is one of the easiest families to start with. And so you're going to sequentially work your way through all of these short vowel families, either showing them on a dry erase board, you writing out the families. I do this every year, so of course I have them on laminated word cards that I put in a pocket chart. But at home, you may not want to invest in all that or all that time and energy. So sometimes a dry erase board is just a quick way to do that when you're working one-on-one with your own child. There are also many resources that we're going to be sharing with you, like starfall.com has activities that they can do when they're first learning to read with word families. And there are other, and even printing out games where you write the short vowel words. Maybe you take the whole at family and you write the whole, at family out on a game board and then play a game with your child. Another idea is spatula slap, where you write words on cards and then you play like memory, or I'm sorry, you turn them over, and you usually have to have more than one child for this, but my husband and I played it with our son where one of us was the other person playing the game. But we would, I would say a word and they would have to slap the correct word first. So in all the at words, you might say, which one is fat? And then your child tries to find fat and slap it with a spatula. I buy them 2 apiece at the Dollar Tree. And so my husband and I would let him win because he found that so much fun and it kept him learning. So you do want to kind of let them win a little bit so that they get motivated to keep playing it and keep learning those words. So obviously you're going to start with the short vowel list, and then we've given you other long vowel lists on the site. And at the same time that you're teaching some short and long vowels, you can branch over into blends and digraphs. Blends are when you have 2 sounds that go together that they each keep their own sound. This was a great website that I found that had a few activities, like BL says blah, CL says cla, BR says bruh, where you can still hear both sounds. A digraph is when you have 2 letters that make only one sound. CH makes ch, that's just one sound. TH either says th, like at the end of with, or like a th, vibrating sound at the beginning of the or that. So those are called digraphs. So they're a little bit different than a blend. And there are a few more digraphs, also like sh, 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 that's also one sound with 2 letters. I know in the other video I talked about the Letter Factory DVD from Leapfrog. There is also a Talking Words Factory video, but I only use that as an introductory video a few times, and it's not a consistent lesson that, you're going to be teaching so many phonics skills over the next couple months to your child, little by little, that I don't necessarily know that you have to have that video, but if you want to, it is something that you can use to teach them the introduction to blending and making sounds, which my students do love. So going back to the blog post, again, you're going to spend 10 minutes on sight words, 10 minutes on phonics, and 10 minutes on actual reading. The only problem with teaching your child to read at home with 10 minutes on actual reading is that it is very difficult to find books that are leveled like we can get them in our schools. There are companies that specifically level books in very small mini steps with very, adding only a few words at a time, that is very expensive, that you really can't get at home. And so one thing that I recommend is taking a blank sheet of computer paper, a few pieces, either cutting them or folding them in half and cutting them and stapling them into little books and making your own books. This is a very inexpensive way to create your own books for your child to read, and that gets them in the routine of reading from left to right. You can also go to your local library, obviously, and ask your librarian, where are your easiest readers? This is especially important when they first start reading. Once they get to, I would say halfway through first grade, then they can start reading some of the more step into reading books that you see that are leveled, that you can get, out at the store, at the library. And so, but until that point, sometimes you just have to come up with your own. Obviously, Dick and Jane, I talk about, is one of the easiest sight words / phonics easy readers. They're mostly sight words even, but to blend phonics in with it, the most common ones really are only ones that we can buy. So also readingatozee.com, you can get a subscription to that website and print out your own books. It's just that I know that printer ink gets very expensive. So another idea I gave you on the blog was to actually call your local public school as well, if you're a homeschooler, or if your child's in a public school, asking the reading specialist if you can borrow one book at a time, and then be very faithful to take it back, because as a reading specialist, I'm certainly not going to lend to a parent that doesn't bring my books back. So these are all different ideas on how to get your child to be reading with this 30-minute a day lesson. If your child exhibits symptoms of attention deficit disorder or any kind of learning issue, I recommend doing them in 3 10-minute segments that you can spread throughout the day. You don't have to do them all in one 30-minute lump. In fact, it's good to take a break in between for your child, but you will find if you start applying these, I've had many students and parents that have followed this system at home and come to me later and thank me that they finally started doing it. The ones that don't, their children do not grow. And so we're going to be talking, you know, at another post eventually in a couple weeks about how to know what level your child is reading on. And many times if you just ask the reading specialist at the school to do what's called either a DRA or a QRI, the DRA stands for Developmental Reading Assessment, QRI is Qualitative Reading Inventory, they can usually tell you about where your child is reading, and that may be helpful for you as you work through all the phonics and sight word and reading out loud lessons. So when they're actually reading out loud, a couple other things I want to go over are you are trying to teach your child to read fluently, and they may not do this at first. And so if your child gets stuck on words, there are different strategies you can use. Like, I know the common one that people have used for years is sound it out, but many times you have to ask your child, you know, does it make sense? Does that make sense to say milkshake when the word is move? You know, if the child puts a word that makes absolutely no sense as they're reading, you know, it's really good to help them. But if they're just really getting started, you may have to help them with a lot of words at the very beginning as a parent, as they start to really learn just basic sight words. You're going to have to read a lot of sentences with them before you can even get into stories. So sometimes you can just write out sentences on your dry erase board and work through the sentences together over and over again every day until they've seen the word the 25 times, or they've seen it 50 times, or and you'll learn how many times your child has to see a word before they can memorize it. And please don't compare your children. Some children can learn to read after seeing a word 2 or 3 times. Some children need 20 or 25 times, and that's why being a teacher, it can be difficult at times because we have to meet the needs of all of our students. So this is basically how you're going to get your child to start reading on a first grade level and grow to the end of second grade. And we've also included all the rest of the phonics that you'll be wanting to do for the first grade year, which include, like we said, the blends and digraphs, the R-controlled vowels. After you get into long vowels, which, you know, obviously the E makes the vowel say its name. That's very common. Most of us remember learning that in school, like cake and take, made, or bike, you know, where you have the E at the end and the vowel says its name. But there are also long vowel patterns where the spellings are like double vowels, like keep, or boat, O-A, or A-I, and rain. So I will be making sure that there's a list of those as well. And then once you get through long vowels, then I would recommend next working on like R-controlled vowels, and then those special vowels like I talk about in number 5, like irregular vowels like O-I and O-Y say oi. O-O can make the sound oo or like in boo or took. O-W like in snow or cow. I-G-H and any others you come across as your child's reading. And then you also want to work on contractions after that. And then also at the same time as you're working on a lot of these skills, you can add in things like putting S on the end of a word to make it plural, or verb tenses like ed, like we walked, and then ing. So these are all things that you'll work through little by little. And if you have questions, of course, just ask me, or you can email me at steph@debtfreespending.com. So hopefully you guys have learned a lot from our lesson today, how to teach your child to read on a first grade level. Have a great day.